Hey friends out there in YouTube land, Rob here. Today we're going to be talking about the Tascam Portacapture X8. I bought this with my own money. I'm going to tell you all about my first impressions of it. In the background you might even see a little video that I'm working on right now from my very first time out with my son, recording sound samples down at the Virginia Beach oceanfront. Should be quite a bit of fun. I hope that you enjoy that. Stick around for when it pops out. I wanted to make this video because as I was using this and overcoming some frustrations and thinking about the placement of Tascam's Portacapture X8 and the whole lineup and how I use it, I realized that there were a lot of questions out there that are not answered by Tascam, and some of the information is difficult to find, to say the least. If you're looking for more information on this, I think the one done by Curtis Judd is a great place to start. And Free to Use Sound, the YouTube channel, has some great information about this. But even watching both of those channels before I made a purchasing decision, I still had some questions left unanswered. So here are my top questions. We're going to say 5, but my top questions about the Portacapture X8. First thing is, I want to talk to you about my sound journey. I don't use sounds for sampling the way that you might think. I would use sound as a wedding photographer, videographer, and I got started really on the H4 back in the day, many, many years ago. I hated the H4 and actually traded it in and didn't use anything other than a little recorder of the H1 for a long time. This is the H1N, but when the H5 came in, I immediately picked that up. I would like this quite a bit better than the H4. 2 inputs, interchangeable mic capsules, never really failed me. Nice, 96,000 kilohertz sample rate, 24-bit. Yeah, I don't even remember. It's been so long since I've used this. I used that for a while, and then I ended up getting the Zoom H6. Now this is the black edition, so you know that came out about 3 years after it came out. So I've been using this for about 3 or 4 years. The Zoom H6, absolutely wonderful. And for that, I picked up a Zoom F1 as well. All the Zoom products have these interchangeable capsules, which is really nice. Well, maybe not all of them. I've used the Zoom H6 and really enjoyed using it. The problem that I have with the Zoom H6 was, of course, the interface. I just didn't like it. So a lot of the things you might do with sound on your own time, other than just recording and setting levels for paid gigs and stuff like that, like the audio mixer, difficult to use, easy to navigate menu, but very limited button selection for navigating it. Just a jog wheel that presses in and a menu button. But at the same time, I also picked up another little Sony. This is the PZX, 370 or something like that. Anyways, just a great little pocket recorder that I could stick a lavalier microphone onto and send it to the bride and groom and do all of that. So back to the Tascam, of course, Portacapture X8. Why, right? So that's our first question. Why? 32-bit float, right? Yeah, of course, 196 kilohertz sample rate or 192,000 kilohertz sample rate and 32-bit float. That's a big deal. Recently, I was contracted to do a commercial for a company that was putting some advertising on Hulu and a couple other places, and I actually needed to record in 192 kilohertz sample rate. That's what they wanted. And of course, Apple ProRes, and so all that other stuff, I've got all those things, but I needed a new recorder anyway. Now for me, I use wireless microphones for all of my recordings, and if you guys don't know, I use the Sennheiser XSWDs, and you're actually hearing the sound from the Boom, the Kamika Boom XU Quad. The XSWDs look like this, and they have XLR counterparts to them, right? And they just plug right into your XLR inputs on your camera or whatever device you're using, and they work just like a cable. In fact, that's Sennheiser's slogan, and I believe that for the most part. Sometimes I get a little bit of interference on some different channels. It's all Bluetooth 2.4 gigahertz, but in any event, that's how I usually use my microphones, wirelessly, right? And this is important. 32-bit float, the recorder can handle that, and that means that you can regain overmodulated signals because it can sample above 0 decibels. A big deal. And if you've ever have overmodulated stuff, you'll know about it. And the 32-bit float is real. But here's the question. If I'm using a wireless mic like the Kamika right here, or the Sennheiser over there, those use digital technologies to send the sound information wirelessly. Okay, so if they're using a 24-bit 48 kilohertz sample rate digital technology, is there really any benefit when you record in 32-bit float? For example, if I'm only sending audio in digitally through the 24 bits, does it make any difference? And the answer is absolutely yes. And I'm still trying to figure out why. I've got an example I'll roll here and let's just see. So check this out. So we should be recording now.
We are.
Yeah, and it picked up right there. Okay, this is a test right now. We've got the Tascam. I'm actually testing 3 things right here. Mic is our standard mic capsule right here. Line 3 is actually our XSWD connected wirelessly, and channel 5 on this side happens to be the Boom XU Quad. The reason I'm testing this is because I'm recording in 24-bit and 32-bit float, and I think my sample rate is actually kind of low right now, only at 48,000 hertz, but that'll be okay. I know that channel 3 is a digital channel. It uses ADPX Live for that, which is a 24-bit 48 kilohertz channel. And then I talked with Zoom, and they said that the Boom XU Quad is actually sending an analog signal, not a digital signal, which means that we should be able to see some benefit from one wireless system, the analog system, in 32-bit float. Now, I don't know if that's the case. The reason it's important is because even though you're recording in 32-bit float, if your input is only 24-bit, then you won't have the advantages in that over 0 decibel modulation. Let's see what we can happen. So we have a test. You've heard my voice. This is a test 1, 2, 3. Each of the inputs have been set to the proper settings so that the gains are at unity as much as is possible. So that's test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to speak really loud and intentionally overmodulate. I don't know if you can hear me. We can see that we are completely overmodulating, and what we want to see is if we can actually recover any of this in post-production. Speak really loud and intentionally overmodulate. I don't know if you can hear me. We can see that we are completely... One, two, three, four, 5. Now I'm going to speak really loud and intentionally overmodulate. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, we're back. You see that it works, right? But you understand my question. Just because you put 90 octane fuel in your car when it really requires 97 octane doesn't mean that you're getting the performance of 97 octane. So just because I'm using a 32-bit float recorder doesn't mean that if the signal I'm sending to it is only 24-bit, it doesn't change that to 32-bit. So I think that the answer to why there is some recovery like you saw happens to be that maybe I'm not using the full, maybe there's more headroom in the system of microphones that I'm using than I'm expecting. And maybe the dual analog to digital converters for the high pass and low pass sound chain on this are able to better separate that. Also, you won't find clipping on 32-bit float, and we didn't even hit clip here after we went to the 32-bit float file that you guys saw. So when could you clip? Well, obviously if your sound exceeded the sound pressure level of the microphone, that could distort the sound, right? And so those things all have to be taken into account. But I guess for the standard answer is, does it matter? No, it works. It works just like you would expect it to work. Now, I would never have that question or concern with a wired mic because that's all an analog signal in the first place. From the microphone into the recorder, it's an analog signal. So really, that question there had to do more with digital signals coming from wireless microphones. So if anything, at least we've got some answer there. I have contacted Tascam and asked them several questions throughout the video. I'll tell you about those. This was one of those questions that I asked. I am waiting for a response. Moving on along, I think the next thing to know is about the microphone build quality. And you know, I got my little book here, so that means this is a coffee cup kind of conversation. So grab yourself some drinks and snacks and keep going. Also, if you find this type of content helpful, please don't forget to use the Amazon links down below. It helps out quite a bit. Or send me a cup of coffee through PayPal. I'd enjoy that quite a bit. Mic build quality. Mic build quality. They're rough. Let me go ahead. I'm going to roll a little show right now for you. Here's me taking apart the microphone, and I just want to show you what the mic capsules and everything look like. Now, the reason that I took everything apart is because I thought I broke the mic, right? I thought I broke the mic because we're going to talk about the overall build quality of the machine, but the microphone capsule build quality is is an afterthought, to say the least. It actually is an insult to the price point that you pay for this. This is $500 US at the time of this recording, and the microphone capsules are cheap plastic. They only look metallic. The screen on the inside and the pop filter that's included is made out of metal, but the housing itself that the screen fits in, the shiny silver part, that's just plastic. It is horrible. That does not detract from the fact that through my testing over this past 2 weeks, I do believe that these microphones perform well. However, their build quality is disgusting. Now, sometimes when I talk about these things on different videos, I find people that say, oh, stop whining, oh, stop this. No, you guys have to understand, if you're buying this, number one, the two shiny knobs up here do not articulate. It looks like they do. You have seen other microphones that use a similar type of plug, you know, that plug into your iPhone or that would plug into your DSLR or anything with a regular microphone jack. You have seen those, and they happen to rotate 90 degrees or 180 degrees, right? These do not. They can't move. So if you want to go ahead and change your XY position to XY or AB, you have to literally switch out the microphone capsules. You have to replace them. You have to switch them. It's because they do not move. If they did move, they would have to be made of better quality so they wouldn't break. I believe this is a cost savings measure. This is a $500 device. There might be a lot of good stuff that we're going to talk about later, but you must understand that the feeling that you get when you pick up these microphones is not one of quality. Again, I can't stress that I do believe the sound to be good. I believe the sound quality to be very good, but they're not durable by any means. In fact, many ways in which I would use this recorder, if I was collecting sounds or something, would be hanging from a strap on my side. Now, I've done that with my Zoom from the strap lugs plenty of times. My Zoom H6, all these capsules, this is a dense thing. You could probably chuck it at somebody if they were stealing your camera bag and it would knock them out, right? If you hit them. Practice aim, baby. Metal, aluminum, cast aluminum or machined aluminum construction, metal outside perimeter to the windshields, the whole thing, metal. Feels good, never once bumped. You can even see some places on the screen itself where I've bumped things in the past. No problem, it doesn't care, it just keeps going. These do not give you any of that confidence. Okay, I'm gonna move on along. The thing I want you to know, sound quality seems to be on par. Good. Doesn't bother me a bit. I enjoy it. Build quality, it is an insult. It is an absolute insult. Here's another thing that I've done. Speaking on the microphone capsules, I emailed Tascam and said, hey, these inputs are terrible. You know it. You built it. Tell me what you plan to do about replacements. I would like to know how to get extras. What do I do when they break? I asked them also, do they have plans for coming out with additional modules? Wouldn't it be nice to know? I mean, it is interesting to consider additional modules, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But I also asked them, how come there's no little plug to go right there to protect that input? It's all, this whole thing is plastic except for this quarter 20, that cold shoe, and the locking parts of these locking areas, and maybe these lugs, right? Everything else is plastic. Right? So why not have a piece that will protect these grooves as well as that hole for the mic jack, for the mic capsule? I don't know. We will find out if they ever reply, but I did ask them about that specifically. The next thing we're going to talk about is replacement mic capsules. So we kind of talked about replacement mic capsules from Tascam, but guess what? Those beautiful people over at Saramonic have some extremely inexpensive microphone capsules that are made out of cast metal, I don't know for sure right now, that also plug in using a TRS connection that will plug in directly to the top of here. And they will rotate as well. Now, this locking mechanism that is on the X8 is, well, proprietary, so they don't have the locking lugs, but these microphone connections right here are strong, and the connections, the capsules are made out of metal and roughly the same size, around between a 13 and 15 millimeter diaphragm. So there's several different options to choose from to give a shot. So I've emailed Saramonic and asked them, hey, can I get some of these to review? And even if they say no, check this out. They're $25. made out of each. So it's 50 bucks. And you can get a shotgun, you can get a 5-inch shotgun, which or you can get, I don't know, the regular unidirectional mics like this, and plug them in, and they both rotate and pivot and everything else. So you can have some different options, right, to go on here. You could have a dual stereo shotgun setup with those 5-inch shotgun capsules that are made out of aluminum. Those ones actually are aluminum. And if you buy the package that has the windscreen and the dead cat included, it's $29. Woo, big deal. Here's the point that I'm making with the replacement mic capsules. An extra 60 bucks? You mean to tell me this is what we got because we couldn't pay an extra? You hear where I'm going with it. So the idea that I'm trying to share with you is yes, you can actually use all kinds of mic capsules. In fact, I wanted to bring this out to share with you right here. Now I've just got one, but you can actually plug in TRS microphone connections, like a lavalier mic or whatever other TRS connection you had, directly in here. Now, I've only got one in right now, but just to demonstrate, check 1, 2, 3, check, it's right there. You can also mix your left and right inputs as a stereo pair or an individual line. So if you did need to have 6 recording tracks, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right here on the device. That is actually very handy. And I don't mind that at all. In fact, you could have a receiver plugged into right here that had, a wireless mic plugged into someone. You could do that, like the Boom XD or something. So it's pretty cool, and I like that concept and idea. I think it'll be fun, so please stay tuned if that's the type of thing you would like to see. I want to talk about the mixer, EQ, and effects. Let's remember how I use this. Usually it's on top of my camera or on a rig to the side, and I have all of my stuff running into it. On the Zoom H6, I never really did a lot of sound sampling. Actually, the sampling that I used mostly was my Zoom H1 or H1N to sample water and things like that if I needed it. And normally that would be going back to a spot after in order to get something that I needed for my sound design. And once I got a Storyblok subscription, I stopped doing a lot of sampling. And that was a long time ago, which meant I just started grabbing stock pieces that I paid for with my subscription. I did that because it sucks using this interface to try to mix. Even when I play my guitars and run my mics into here, I would never try to mix on this console. Plus, you can only use a limiter or a compressor, and you can't do any kind of additional effects. There's no reverb, yada, 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 yada. So I was just used to using it like that. That's it. No problem. Imagine my surprise once I got to using this and found out that there's a full mixer built into here. This mixer is awesome. We've got our 6 channels. We can do our stereo separation left or right. We can pair these two into a stereo mix. We can pair these two into a stereo mix, these two into a stereo mix. So you've got 3 stereo mixes if you want to pair them. You can have whatever kind of separation that you would like. You can adjust it all extremely easily through the touchscreen interface. You can set your levels on the home screen, which is where you're going to begin recording. And then you can even change all of your inputs. Now, when you get into your inputs, you can do all kinds of stuff. Even reverb. Man, we can do small play, hall, large play, everything that you can think of. Room, studio. And you can set different adjustments for the reverb. So if you want to have reverb on this track and you need a compressor over there and you're running an acoustic guitar, you can set your 4-band equalizer, which is low, mid-high, and high, plus your Q for all of them. Man, you can do it on the mixer. So the other night I sat downstairs. The very first night I got it, actually, I sat downstairs, I plugged in my microphone. It's an E835 Sennheiser. And I plugged in my guitar, the GT by Taylor, with the ES2 system, and I put my stereo pickup pattern to AB and set it just closer to get my hand noise moving up the neck and some of my projection there. Wow, I could mix it all right here, and it sounded great, and I had my headphones, and I was jamming, and my son came down and looked at me and just gave me a thumbs up. Lots of fun, all on here. So I gotta tell you, I always thought I was going to have a lot of fun with my Zoom F6, and I'm sure a lot of people did. I didn't like the interface, so if I did any recordings, I just brought it into Audition. Well, not here. We got it right here. I think that's really great. I like it quite a bit. You'll enjoy that as well. But what's bad, right? The same kind of idea, the launcher. This is version 1 software. I think it's 1.03 that I'm using. The launcher, the overall usage is only okay. right? You got to pay extra to have a Bluetooth adapter so that you can control the settings from your phone, which is cool. I did not buy it, but neat. But why do I have to pay extra for it? Just like the microphone capsules, it sucked because they should have been better, but they're not. This is a $500 device. It just feels unfinished. And the firmware or the software is there as well. So the launcher, it's kind of not laggy, but just not intuitive, trying to get through things in the menu. For example, this is a field recorder. You're going to press the play button and expect to hear something after you've recorded it. Well, nope, the speaker's off by default. Not on the Zoom, not anywhere else, but here it is. Which means if you go out and you record your first, hey, I just got a Tascam X8, cool, and you push play, you will not hear it. Now, I know monitoring through this little 0.4 of a watt speaker isn't great, but wouldn't it be nice to actually hear for reference that it is actually doing something? Nope. And if it's your first time using this device, the fact that the speaker's not on is going to throw you for a loop. And that gets you to dig into the menus to find out that, nope, it's not easy to find turn speaker on. The second thing, it doesn't like a lot of memory cards. There is a list, go check the list, download it on the website to make sure your memory card is supported. When I got my memory cards, it didn't like them. It does not matter which ones they were. I needed to then format them once it decided that it would take one. Finding the media format should be pretty simple, but due to inattentional blindness and already being frustrated through using the machine, I went through the settings several times because I was looking for just the simple word format, and it said media format, and just seeing media ahead meant I skipped over it completely. So totally a user thing, but because of the frustration and the awkward placement of settings, I missed it. And I had to go into the menu for both the speaker, not the menu, I had to go into the PDF manual for both finding out how to turn on the speaker and finding out how to format the memory card. So it's only adequate, in my opinion. I will say what I do like about the launcher is that it does have presets, which are neat. It's nice. You know, you're going to go in there and do some sound recording, some special effects, or sound effects, I should say, or you want to do some ASMR, you want to do podcasting, stuff like that. It's got setups to help you get started with that. However, none of them will give you the full capabilities because they're like apps. You just want to use a manual and then set all your settings. But if you don't know how to set all your settings, or if you want to work very quickly, going into one of those apps, launchers, will be helpful. However, what happens when you go into them is it will disconnect some of the inputs. So if you don't realize that it's disconnecting all inputs except 1 and 2, and you plug something in, it will become frustrating for you. So my suggestion is just use manual. Here's where we get to the fun part. I'm going to answer the question, should you get one? Yes, absolutely. If you need a field recorder, right? Notice the only recorder I have back here, maybe you didn't see and I didn't talk about it earlier, I do have a Rodecaster Pro, but this is a desk mounted thing. I take it when I got to do stuff and yada yada, this, that, the other. But this is here, right, for recording here in studio at the house when I need to do some recording. I plug that sucker in, I got all my stuff in the back of it, turn it on. And I used to do quite a bit of podcasting with this specifically, live news type of events. It was very interesting, had a good time with that. And so it's good, but it's not a recorder. But it's got built-in effects for your voice and your sound effects on board and lexicon effects, which made sound processing and sound design easier because it would go into Adobe Premiere better. The sound would already be closer to what I wanted. Okay, well that's great. That's great. But notice I don't have anything else here in that form factor. I like the field recorder form factor. It's just that simple. I like this because it's useful for me in my hand and on the camera. So should you get one? If you have a need for a field recorder like this, I would absolutely say the 32-bit float is a game changer, right? It really is very important. So if you need that type of flexibility, good, get it. It's a great spot. And overall, I like the recorder. The plastic's a little cheap, kind of, but not anything bad. I like the texture of it, but it's the microphones for me more than anything else. But overall, I like the device quite a bit. I'm excited about using it. It's fun. When I was using it to record those sounds, I simply had it on a stand that plugged in right there, and I had very little, if no hand noise, noise from handling when using it, so it was good to go. But once again, it comes into that spot. This is $150 more expensive than the Zoom H6. But if you plan on actually doing some work and getting some work done on the device as well as just recording, then yeah, you You can use the Zoom H6 as a mixer, and you can mix down and do your tracks and your punch-ins and stuff like that. But here, the screen and the usability make it easier. So I said, sure, I think it's great. I think that also leads me to, is it better than the H6 or the H8? Well, I have no experience with the H8. I have a lot of experience with the H6. I believe it's better than the H6 all day long. But only until Zoom decides to come out with something to compete with Tascam. In my opinion, Zoom is always a little more premium than Tascam. Zoom's got to do something like this. Zoom does not like to embrace the large screen. They do have the F3 that's out. It's much smaller. It's about the size of my F1, right? And has no replaceable mic capsules and 2 XLR inputs. And then the whole thing has changed, right? Like I could have gotten the F3, but the idea of no gain settings and all this other stuff just didn't have the type of features that I wanted. Is it better than the H8? I don't know. You get the additional, you get 6 XLR inputs and 2 additional XLR inputs if you want through the capsule. Here, they call this the X8, but you really only have 6 actual inputs plus a mixed down track of all of your tracks, 2 of those. So that's where they get the 8 from. I don't know. But when it comes to sample rate and recording, those two do not do 32-bit float, 192 kilohertz sample rates. They just don't, so this does. And the screen is a big deal here. You can actually work on the device and do your stuff after. You can get a little post-production done through the mixer on here after you've actually recorded something. How crazy is that? Now, is it better than the F6 or the F8 or the Sound Devices Mix Pre 2 or those? I looked at those quite a bit, and the Sound Devices was outside of the price range that I wanted to have. However, drool worthy, right? It was very good, very appealing to me. But once again, it came to the form factor. I'm not looking for something that goes into a sound bag to be a sound designer on set, to hold boom poles and things like that. That's not where I am. For me and what I do, I am the director, producer, sound manager, everything on my teams. And so after people set up the gear, I'm the one that goes back and checks it to make sure that it's right and stuff like that. So I've got to make sure that they're doing what I need them to do in the first place. And this device makes it easier for me. Devices like this with this form factor make it easier for me to get all of my things dialed in. I can run around and everything else. Not having physical knobs to control gain and stuff I thought was going to be strange, but actually, no, it's better. I keep the screen on high. My battery life on this has been, I think, 6 hours of screen on time and maybe 2 hours of recording before I went through the first set of batteries. And I was walking around and everything. I did that in a day, walking around the first day I got it, testing it. It was still quite a bit of fun. I enjoyed it one way or the other. So there are my thoughts. I hope that you have found them helpful. I hope that this made sense to you. If you did, please don't forget to use those Amazon links down below. Send me a cup of coffee through PayPal and let me know what you think. Send your comments down there too. I'd really love to have your thoughts on the conversation. And please don't forget to wait for that video that's going to drop in the next week about me and my son out on location with the Tascam Portacapture X8 using to capture sounds around Virginia Beach. We go to Malbin Brothers, we go to the pier, we go to the amusement park. We just have a good time with it all over the place. And from there, I'm Rob. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. I want to thank you for watching. Remind you, I'll see you next time. Bye for now.